Hello, hello, hello. Happy Friday. Can I talk with Roz time? What's going on, everybody? Roz McCarthy here. So happy to see you. Make sure you plug in right now. Plug in. Please share this with your friends, with your followers, folks that are just connected to the industry or not. Doesn't matter. But I'm so happy to be on with you. I'm live actually in Austin, Texas. I'm going to be in town in Texas right now in Austin for South by Southwest. I'll be speaking tomorrow with Ricky Williams and Gary Santo with Tilt Holdings, as well as Shanae Bullock, who is a part of the Little Beach Harvest, which is a Native American community in New York that is actually going to be focused on an operator in New York as a cannabis operator. But let me tell you this. I'm so happy to see you guys. So happy to be on. What's up, Tucky? Happy to see you, Tucky. Listen, today we are celebrating Women's History Month. And I have a couple of guests on that are making history. They are truly they are one strong, vibrant women who are changing the game of cannabis, but they're also going to talk about their perspective as operators and what they're doing in this space. And specifically, they're based out of Oklahoma. And if you don't know, Oklahoma has been so much going on lately with legalization ballot that ended up getting defeated. And just the state itself has been growing as an industry. So we're going to talk about it. So our first guest we have on is Miss Thunder Walker. Hi, Thunder. How are you?
Hello, hello.
You. And our
Nice.
second guest that we have on is Miss Shalon Youngblood. Hey, Shalon. How are you?
Hi, how are you? Hi, ladies.
I'm, I'm wonderful. It's so good to have you ladies on today. I did not do a great job of sharing or telling your story of who you are and what you're doing right now. And I want you, and I want to start with you, Thunder. Please introduce yourself to everyone who do not know you, because if they were to meet you, they will never forget you because your personality and energy is second to none. But please
Thank
introduce
you.
everyone to who you are, where you're based, and what you're doing in the industry right now.
My name is Thunder Walker, and I am the proud owner of Proud Mary Cannabis and Botanicals Holdings. We actually own a three-level branch of cannabis where we do processing. We actually go out and consult and help people of color and women come into the industry. And of course, we have a dispensary located here in the great state of Oklahoma, in Oklahoma City. I also run this brand new venture and project that's amazing. It's called the Thunder Walker Experience, where I go to local places throughout the community community, and I go to different states that are in the cannabis industry, and we interview people and we talk to them about what's happening in their community and how they can make change happen. So I'm here today just to share my beautiful town, Oklahoma City, and what we have going on here.
That's so awesome. And we're going to get so deep into how you get into the industry and you are a vertically integrated operator, what that means, and especially for a woman of color and how you've been able to just break down barriers. But before we do that, I want to make sure that we bring Miss Shalon. Shalon, hi, my love. How are you?
Hi, Miss Ross. How you doing? I'm blessed. I'm blessed. No complaints
Have
here.
you? Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Tell everybody a little bit about yourself. Tell them where you're located, what you're doing in the industry, and how did you get started?
Okay. Well, I'm the founder and CEO of Young Buds Dispensary here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. It was a family business that we created together about 3.5 years ago. And I also do, as a part of that, I do consulting for education and compliance related to not only just the cannabis business, but also any business that is Black owned, focusing on females, of course, in this industry, but also those that are disadvantaged in any other particular way. Because my background is in mental health and social services. I've had a career for that for 22 years. So I have a passion for the plant and how it can help us in a medical way. And with me working in the medical field with pharmaceuticals, that is where I was able to see that I had a niche in the industry so I could really explain to people how this is truly medicine. I will say that my passion is Black town, Black empowerment. I'm from the oldest historical Black town here in Oklahoma. It's called Tallahassee. And so Tulsa is home of Black Wall Street. And so I incorporate all of that into my dispensary. I make sure I highlight other Black brands, Black businesses that have nothing to do with cannabis. Everyone's welcome. And so that's just a little bit about my platform and my story and how we got started.
That's so awesome. I'm gonna have you also tilt your screen a little bit so we can see your beautiful face.
Okay, there we go.
Oh, there you go. Yay! Wonderful, wonderful. That is perfect. Perfect, perfect, perfect. So let's talk about this. First, the misnomer that is no Black people out in Oklahoma, because I was able to see I've been out there and I was like blown away. It's a vibrant community. I know Thunder, you're in Oklahoma City. Shalon, you're in Tulsa. Talk to us about just the vibrancy of Oklahoma and the vibrancy of Black community and Black entrepreneurs, and like even the historical aspect of Tulsa, Shalon, once you get a chance to talk a little bit. But let's tap into that for a second.
Well, I just want to say Oklahoma is a melting pot, in my opinion, of all different colors, races. It's just really, really beautiful. One of the things that you will find is that there's so many different tribes here and people of color that we try to work together as much as we possibly can in the Oklahoma City area to highlight and to bring up those people into the commercial space, into any type of business, entrepreneurship. We really, really work on that in Oklahoma City. And so you'll see a push to push women forward. You'll see a push to push people of color forward. And there's actually a chain reaction. Like in my dispensary, I really try to carry, whether it's artwork, whatever you're doing as a woman or a person of color, I try to actually lift you up. And so you'll see that throughout this community. What I like about Oklahoma is very, very peaceful. It's almost like a small town in a big city. And so we talk about where you graduated from high school from, who's your family. The church is very strong here. It is the Bible Belt. So you will get a chance to see that people grow here from different communities inside of different churches. So it's really, really nice in Oklahoma City. We have great restaurants, great parks, and we're really, really thriving. And, you know, I think it's a place to raise a family. And there's very few places out there right now that I would say is a great place to raise a family, but I like Oklahoma City and it's a great place to raise a family.
Yeah, awesome, awesome. Shalon, talk about you in Tulsa and just the historical background and understanding that the vibrancy of the Black entrepreneurs in the city of Tulsa.
I mean, we're seeing a rebirth here, not only just with cannabis business, but there's Black entrepreneurship all throughout Tulsa and the related counties. Again, we speak about Greenwood and Black Wall Street. There's been a renewed interest in that after the centennial. We continue to have one of the largest Juneteenth celebration here. We have a lot of programs that are bringing additional entrepreneurs, Black entrepreneurs here to Oklahoma and Tulsa that want to assist with that. We have a lot of tech startups, accelerators, all type of programs that I've lived here most of my life and I've never seen them. So it's definitely, we have a lot of interest in people that want to live here. My particular town is extremely small. It's maybe 2.5 miles, but we literally have people contacting us every day that want to move there. And that's
Yeah.
30 minutes outside of Tulsa. And so we definitely have a renewed interest. Those that live here, they'll tell you they've always been passionate. I'm definitely connected to a lot of different activists on the ground that are pushing a lot of things forward. Tiffany Crutcher Foundation, the Terrence Crutcher Foundation, they're heavily involved in the community. Black Wall Street Chamber of Commerce. We have so many different organizations that are doing so much. We have several Black radio stations here in Tulsa. Our artist scene is amazing. Not only just
It
spoken
is.
artists, um, creative artists, but also the music. So everywhere
Yes.
I look, I see someone starting multiple businesses, and I love it. And I just think that we create a great ecosystem for them. The sky's the limit because we have people coming in. I mean, we actually have a venture capital firm coming here. We have a Black doctor's physician coming here, a major medical group. So it's amazing. It's the ground. It's definitely the beginning works of something amazing. In cannabis, to me, we have some of the most Black operators in any other state, just off
Yeah.
visual.
Yep, and that
Absolutely.
is something that we have to, I think, from a Oklahoma gets lost in the mix. So let's set a foundation for everyone that you don't know, that doesn't know. Oklahoma is a state that has a medical program, but I would say out of all the states, I call Oklahoma the wild wild west of cannabis, where it was the most progressive. When the laws came into being in 2018, and I was there on the ground. I shout out to Deshita Dawson, who did the first conference there in Oklahoma.
Oh,
I was a
okay,
speaker that
familiar.
was Cease. She created that. I walked in, and it was 200 people ready for information. And this was before the law even was, was actually put into action and set into stone. But you saw this vibrancy of people of wanting to create this new industry in Oklahoma, and then it just took off, right?
Yes.
And so, if you guys want to share, like, tell everybody about the cannabis industry in Oklahoma from your perspective, and then I'll kind of like layer it up from there, and then kind of tee it up for a conversation about where we are now from a legalization standpoint. So, Thunder, please share.
Okay, so what was great about our program medical for Oklahoma City and the whole state of Oklahoma is that the entry for being a business owner in the cannabis space was very, very low, which means there was low out of pocket, low expense. And so the license was only like $2,500, which allowed people that may have or may shouldn't have gotten into the industry to get in. But it gave everybody, in my opinion, an easy way to open the door. So
Mhm.
with low costs going in, I think where we kind of missed is the education platform. Oklahoma has the most amount of dispensaries, grows. I mean, we're just, like you said, the Wild Wild West, but we only have 3 education licenses that were secured. So in this state, there's only 3. And so that, in my opinion, was one of the shortfalls of the state and of the people. We should have actually went after those licensed more. And that license is only $500. So
So, what was the education license for? Like, what was the premise of that license?
you can do an education license here to teach caregivers. You can do an education. It's just an education license, so it can cover all topics, all platforms.
Are you
And
able
so
to grow or do something like? Are you able to, like, with the education license, be able to have cannabis in to support patients or what have you, or kind of what makes that cost? What are you allowed to do that other people cannot do as an education?
Well, as an education license, you're not allowed to, you can actually have plants, but you're not allowed to sell. It would
Okay,
literally be
got,
to educate the community,
gotcha.
to actually hold classes, to hold seminars. And I think that's where that was one of the pitfalls that we did not include and jump on. It was a huge opportunity that's still there for the taking. For me, like I said, I do processing. We actually have a dispensary and we're working with a grow. Once you decide to get in 100% into this industry, what we found in Oklahoma compared to other states is that one, we didn't have a lot of education that we needed, continual education.
Mhm.
Two, I think the consumer was not really educated enough to understand what they needed. So when you have a bud tender that's talking about medicine and talking about how this product can help a person that maybe has glaucoma, or maybe a person that has epilepsy, things like that, you need to have some education of the cannabinoid system so you'll know what to direct that person with. So we have some short comings, but we also have a great program that I like because it did open the door for a lot of different people.
Yeah,
You have to be a resident of Oklahoma, and has that resident has to own 75% of the business, and then you can have investors for the other. The
yeah.
other issue is that there wasn't a lot of capital. So we went straight in, we did our thing. Oklahoma set up a program that wasn't perfect, but it did have some things that were positive. We didn't have a lot of social equity. Matter of fact, we didn't have any at all. And
Well, I mean,
so,
and let me stop you on that with the social equity, because social equity was put into place in order to break down the barriers of entry for other markets that have the entry opportunity so high. Oklahoma was like, well, we're not going to have any barriers, so we don't like. So the premise behind social equity and being able to create parity, they didn't. They just made it so that if you were a resident, and if you, I mean, I heard some stories. Application resident $2,500. 2 weeks later, you got your license and you're out the door, and that is so uncommon. But I could be wrong. But go ahead.
okay, so, and you're right about that part, but think about this piece. You have your license, but then you have to add all the auxiliary programs and auxiliary companies to that. And all of those companies have social equity programs that we really can't access in
Mm,
Oklahoma
okay,
because our state doesn't have a social equity program. So, for
sure.
instance, there's one program out there, Weed Maps. It is literally $795 a month, but it is almost free if you're in a state that has social equity. Flow Hub has the same program for social equity. That's, I think it's like $400 or $500 a month to use the POS system, but if you are can show that you're a minority, you're only paying $495, $595 a month. That's a huge difference, and it makes a huge difference in our bottom line monthly. And so
Gotcha.
for me, if the state could just add that one sentence, it would have changed so many things for our community. And so for people of color. So that's where you're going to say, okay, yes, it was really inexpensive to join in, but yet and still, our state, we can't take advantage of all the other programs that are out there with private companies.
I
And so
totally understand. I totally get it. I totally get it. Shalon, let me get your feedback, and then we'll jump on and let's share a little bit more about that conversation that
I
Thunder
mean,
started.
I absolutely agree with Thunder, especially when it comes to the capital. I myself, whether you're applying for grants here, accelerator programs, incubator programs, cannabis is never allowed because of it being federally legal. Then again, the legislation, almost 5 years later, they're still saying the same things. Our license fees are less than everyone else. We don't want
Yeah,
to speak about social equity or economic inclusion. Everyone has a fair shake, but we know that that's not quite true. And also, when it comes to Weed Maps and Flow Hub, Weed Maps didn't want to give us a discount because our state didn't have social equity. Flow Hub was willing to do that as long as we proved, like she stated, that we were women or people of color. And so
yeah,
that has been difficult because when you're in a state that has 25% of the United States dispensaries, California has 9% and they have 10 times our population. So we have 25% and it's a medical market. Less than 400,000 patients have a card. That's 130 patients per dispensary, not speaking about which demographic area. We also have certain cities and counties that do not have rules that require another dispensary to be at least 1,000 feet away from you, like the city of Tulsa does, which helped us and others because they are on every corner, but at least we had the length of a couple of football fields in between us. And so that has
Mhm.
also made it difficult, especially not only just for the metro area, but also some of the rural areas that have them stacked. And so it's been really challenging unless you have significant capital. One of the things that happens here in Oklahoma, a lot of people that are not black will state, it's a free market. You just have to compete. We're all mom and pop. Well, their definition of mom and pop is I started my business. I didn't have an investor and only family worked with me, but they may have already been millionaires in the oil farming and all things like that, where you
They
have
have
us.
capital. Yep.
Absolutely. You have people starting their business with less than 10,000. You have people starting even with 100 to 200,000, but they're still 2, 3 years later, they're out of business because they just ran out when it comes to all the other licenses we have to get, all the other overhead we have to do. And the other thing I think is there is a lack of education, not specifically just about cannabis, but also about business and taxes. And so I think having a trusted ecosystem, there are not a lot of professionals in the spaces we need them to advise us about how this works in other states and the correct way to do things. And so you make a lot of mistakes and you learn. And that's why I started offering free consulting to quite a few people, because it was basic question and answer session. I wasn't creating any packets or anything for them. It was questions that they needed answers to, and I was okay with answering them because I knew them. So it's definitely been challenging. Oversaturation, excessive black market. A lot of people don't even they excuse the fact that people do it because everyone's trying to survive in this market. And honestly, I blame the state because I feel like they didn't have oversight. They were
Right.
let, they could see who had what, and they just let it ride until they got the funding in to enforce it in the form of law enforcement. And that's what's happening now.
Who's responsible for the program at the state level? What agency does it go through? Department of Health, or do they
It's
have? Or do you have a
Oklahoma
commission
Medical
board?
Marijuana Authority, and they're a standalone agency for three
Gotcha.
months now.
Okay, but it's only been 3 months.
Yes, they were under, I believe, the health department previously.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's where sometimes I feel like there's a disconnect because the health department is like, yeah, that's for the patient side, but the business side and all the different, things that are needed.
Right. You had the health director come out against the adult use cannabis. It's bad for kids. I mean, he said every stigma about cannabis when it came down to legalizing adult use, which shows a disconnect when you were over the agency that handled medical marijuana for almost 5 years.
To begin with. So we
Yes,
see your true colors, all right?
absolutely.
So let me go back and let me set the foundation so for our audience and everybody that's tuning in right now. So and this is great because I get a chance to get educated and re-centered. So the conversation about social equity, even for a state like Oklahoma where access to get a license is still might be low, it's the capitalization, it's the operating fees, it's all the other resources that can support. If you would have had some type of, even if it's not social equity, something would be a disproportionately impacted business entrepreneur, something that would give you guys some type of identification that would tap so that you could tap into other resources to help cut some of these costs. Is that
Absolutely.
okay? Okay, awesome. Well, we got to call Weed Maps and find out. Weed Maps, why can't y'all?
And I'll say I reached out to them, and the rep that I had, he absolutely sent. I told him, I said, your competitor is doing A, B, and C, and he absolutely sent the information over, but I never heard back.
Well, with the fact that I do have a pretty good relationship with them, and this is a part of the things with M4MM and running that organization is being able to hear what are some of the challenges in your market. And sometimes we are like, I'm way on the East Coast in Florida and not even understanding the pressure points of the things that you guys may be going through right now in the state of Oklahoma. Can you talk about on the cultivation side, how satisfied are you with your cultivation partners and the farmers? Are they growing good genetics? Like, give us a day in the life, because people say, well, Oklahoma doesn't have good weed, quote unquote. But let's talk about like some of these different operators that you guys have interacted with and the feedback from patients about the type of products that are available and their sense of satisfaction.
I believe that's just not really true. I think we do have good weed. We do have also, we have a wide range of weed, let's say that. But you have to look at what people are growing. So we grow indoor and outdoor.
We use organic soil, live soil here. It just depends on the grower. And so we have our extremely Gucci weed. We have those things here. And, it just depends on what you're looking for. What happened was a lot of people were able to rush the market that had really no experience in growing.
Okay.
I think that is what kind of tainted our reputation of what type of weed that we have. But if you spend a day or a couple of days in Oklahoma, you will be able to find top shelf weed here. And it's beautiful, beautiful color. I think it could stand up to Colorado. And we had a lot of growers come in from Colorado. We had a lot of growers come in from California. We have a lot of genetics here from California and Colorado and from Michigan.
Mm.
Talked to several different people that have come in from those areas and the genetics from those areas. So I don't think that we have horrible weed. I think that you have to know what to ask for here, because we do have a lot of, I'm going to say, fast, and maybe the dispensaries are more like a just come in and step in and grab your weed and go.
Yeah.
Because but there's some boutique dispensaries that are opening up throughout the state, and we actually concentrate on not only having medicine that is great for the patient and does what it says that it does, but also have a great taste and have a smooth effect on the patient. So
Absolutely. So for everybody that's just joining us, and if I want to thank you guys, it's CannaTalk with Roz this Friday. We're celebrating Women's History Month. We have Shalon Youngblood and Thunder Walker. They're both based in Oklahoma, and these are cannabis operators. These are Black women, strong women operators who are leading the charge in cannabis operations. They're based in Oklahoma, and we're having a conversation and learning and stepping into, I say, a day in the life of an Oklahoma operator. Shalon, I'll pass that question off to you as well. As from a dispensary perspective, what are some of the type of brands that you see in your dispensary? Are they homegrown brands, or are they some of the national ones? I wish I could get Black Buddha into Oklahoma, but I'll be honest with you, I've always been a little apprehensive because I thought the market was really saturated, but would love to get your take.
I feel it's saturated. As someone that comes from like a quality control and medical background, I definitely cared about the lab work. I wanted to make sure it's medical. I wanted to make sure whatever I'm passing to my patients, since they're trusting me, that it was quality. I wanted to view, go visit the grows, the processing places, see how they were doing the product. It was challenging in the beginning. I would say it probably took me about 6 to 9 months to find what I was looking for. And you have anywhere between 20 people come through your door a day. But towards the middle, we did find it. I did find that the smaller grows, the boutique grows, as they're called, they usually were consistent with the quality. They cared about the terpenes in the medication. They were able to explain their growing process to you. They didn't hide anything. So that was very important to me, because we have an issue with our labs here in Oklahoma.
So
that was the issue.
And let's talk about that. Yeah, people think, well, it was a conversation where there was one of our physicians was saying how he preferred getting cannabis from operators that are legalized, and you had so many people say, well, the laboratories nowadays are just like pretty much you have some that really falsify information and that are just very suspect. So talk about the laboratory testing and what's taking place in your state and what you have to contend with.
Well, I haven't followed it that closely recently because it was interesting. But OMA has made some changes where they're trying to have someone on site to do testing. They have their own lab. But when we first entered the industry, we had multiple people saying, don't use this lab or do use this lab based off the fact that you can pay to play.
Right.
And so here it was all about, I need over 30% THC and I need over 4% terps. And so that is what a lot of labs were being involved in, trying to push it because of the oversaturation. They were trying to compete.
Right.
I believe there's been a couple of recalls based off products slipping through that had things in them that they should not have. And that could have been caught if there was some checking on that. And I think we have over 30 lab licenses. So that's yes, I believe so. I think so. 28 run down somewhere. We have quite a few. And so that has been the issue. There are a few that are, like I said, a lot of people say they're consistent. But they've also changed a lot of that with metric and how often you have to test it, for me, again, I care. I understand that as I was been a cannabis user since I was young, I didn't care about the product. You're right. But at the same
Right.
time, I didn't have a condition that might flare up if I use something wrong. And me being present for that, I had people telling me, hey, I got this from this. I thought it was this. And I ended up in the psychiatric hospital for a weekend. And
Wow.
they're professionals, lawyers, in stating that. And so it
Right.
was a concern for me. So I'm not as privy to it now, but it
It
was
was a
crazy.
problem. Yeah, it was a
It was a
problem.
problem. It
Yeah,
was a problem.
absolutely. Thunder, you were going to say something, hon?
I was just going to say that you're absolutely right. In the beginning, it was all those things. But I think it's a responsibility for the dispensaries, a responsibility for the processors to go back and say that we're not going to carry those things. And I've actually had to turn people away that have come to my dispensary with stuff that just is outrageous as far as the terps are outrageous as far as the THC levels, because it just did not make sense. And
Right.
really, really need to be able to not just take something just because it sounds good. And that's a responsibility that we all hold.
Absolutely. And not the highest level of THC is going to be the best cannabis or best weed that you want to use.
I think I had some Harlequin one time. It was 5% THC and more CB. I sold out in a day.
Yeah, yeah. There's something to be said for those other cannabinoids, and people have to understand this plant that we all love has so much different cannabinoids and parts to it that can be such a support to us. So people just have no idea, like, like it's not just always about the THC level. So like, calm down a little bit, calm down.
Right.
You know what? So as we're talking about this, we're talking about the medical market, you guys, I want to put in perspective for everyone. Oklahoma is a state with 5 million people, 400,000 people plus have a medical card. That's almost 10% of the population. That by far is the best nationwide in regards to a percentage. From Florida has 700, almost 800,000 people, but it has 21 million population. So if you're talking about percentage, Oklahoma by far blows the doors open, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we just had a referendum on the ballot, an initiative for voters to vote on legalization, thinking that my thoughts were, oh, that's going to slam jam pass. And it did not pass. So I would love to start with you, Shalon. Tell us about, was it a really strong campaign that was going on? What's the vibe on the streets as to why legalization didn't pass in Oklahoma?
I mean, it was a strong campaign in certain areas. They definitely had big money behind it. They paid signature gatherers. There was a lot of people because they had a criminal justice act reform. They had a lot of organizations that were willing to jump on. They were present at Juneteenth, getting quite a few signatures this past summer. And so that part of it was, but as I speak to, again, I'm involved with the activist and advocacy side with criminal justice and for our people. That side is stating their game wasn't that strong. They didn't reach out to those that weren't necessarily already in the industry. They didn't target other voter bases. And so when the no campaign hit, it was effective. They used every stigma that cannabis is about. And they lost this when 788 passed. They tried it then and it lost. But they used it and it worked. And the facts are the facts. But if you pay attention to what's being put out there, the news, the newspaper, absolutely, we have all kind of things happening in the cannabis industry. You have the poison control, you have the health department director coming out. Everyone is bad for kids. Kids are overdosing, all these things. But again, it was the not regulation of the medical program that made it like that. So I think that they were just tired. Rural areas are very upset. Their water is being strained in those rural areas because of the grows. The grows are going up right by residential homes. They weren't prepared for how much cannabis came into Oklahoma. And most of them probably voted for it. So a lot of those people that voted yes probably turned around and said no. Even the most passionate person about cannabis is saying, oh my God, it's too many. It's too many.
Yeah.
That's something you hear all the time. And I don't think a lot of people understood that for the first 2 years, it wasn't going to add additional businesses. Because in that particular petition, only a business that had been open for about a year in the medical market could even get a license the first 2 years. But I just don't think it didn't matter.
And so, Thunder, I'm going to ask you the same question, and let me put another question on top of that. Do you think it was because of the proliferation of seeing dispensaries on corners, and it just kind of like literally scared the pants off of people, thinking like what we see now is going to double or it's going to triple or whatever the case may be. But Thunder, your thoughts?
I still go back to lack of education. I go back to lack of funding. Um, where are we going to draw the line on bringing people in from other states? And I think that that's what everybody was counting on. Uh,
Yeah.
we talked to a lot of different people that were counting on the fact that they were on the border from Texas to Oklahoma, that there were going to be all of a sudden all of this travel
People
that
coming through. Yes,
yeah,
yes.
and I just don't think that was realistic for the smaller towns. That's not what the smaller towns were interested in. And I think if we would have approached it from the point of it's going to help with taxing and create a different revenue stream for those communities to help with the streets, with helping with education, helping with children, helping with the homelessness, it wasn't tackled the correct way. The message was incorrect.
I
Um,
got
Message coming into the dispensaries when we had people come into my dispensary or other people's dispensary, the message was not correct for us. And so, even though I love the reform as far as prison and criminalization, there was just some things there that I could understand why all of the smaller counties, not one small county,
they
passed.
weren't interested. Yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
We weren't the ballot wasn't speaking their language. And I always tell people, I say, you got to meet people where they are and not where you want them to be. And so people, even though we feel like social justice, but for us, for you, for me, might be a really important issue. But if you have to count on a voter block, that's not their issue, but their issue is having a reduction in taxes or having new tax revenue come in to be able, then that becomes, yeah, and that is where you want to focus your time and your attention, right?
And I'll also say one thing when it came to the cannabis industry, and I don't know everyone, but they were divided because last
Okay.
year there were three petitions. So they had two petitions, 818 and 819, which were constitutional. 818, I believe, was going to reform 788, the medical program. 819 would have been rec. And so you had people on different sides competing with each other. And all three of them could have got the signatures and passed. And they said it would have been the best market because the 820 statutory would have covered the criminal justice reform. But everything constitutional and 818, 819 would have been perfect. But they couldn't get together. Non-melanated people could not get together and push this. They fought.
So you
Because
have different factions fighting against each other, wanting the same thing, but didn't want to come together and figure out how to bring
they
it.
voted no. They ran a campaign. 420 kills 820. I mean, 820 kills 420.
Oh my God.
420 is what the campaign,
Right.
and they did that. And I just feel, and again, the voters still may have said no, but I don't think it would have been as
As
strong
much.
if
Right.
us
Right.
as cannabis operators. And again, everyone has their own opinion on why they did it, and I respect it. I'm just saying though, the infighting miseducated a lot of people. Like Thunder said, there were people that was just listening and not even reading from themselves and having their own feelings on why they should or should not vote.
See, and this is why we have CannaTalk with Roz and have my guest is off the chain. We're gonna have to listen. If you guys don't get a chance to see this live and you want to share this, make sure you catch us on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn to reshare this because this is the real truth about what's going on. Because if you look at the headlines, it's almost like, oh, well, no, the citizens of Oklahoma didn't want this, and no, they voted no. But there are some very clear issues that are going on, especially divisive issues that are happening within our own industry that made it very difficult for this to pass from any perspective. And so my question to you is, you talked about there's a proliferation of Black operators, either retail, processors, or cultivators in Oklahoma. What's going to happen? And God bless, I'm not trying to just pick out Black people, but I am because I'm Black and I want to make sure. So I don't apologize for.
No.
I don't apologize for wanting to make sure my folks get a fair shake. But what are you like? What's the future looking like for? Is it revamping the medical to make an easy access on the medical side? What should we be concerned about our Black and brown business owners who are now like it's tight? So I would love to hear your perspective.
I personally, yes, absolutely. I think that we should be concerned. I know of some of the most successful ones that are already getting out and closing down. So I definitely think, and access to capital is one of the issues. you cannot compete with big money marketing, and big money is here, not because of big corporate money, but it's been 5 years. They've built themselves up to be big. And so lack of access to capital, you really can't compete there. I think we definitely need to have a networking, collaboration, possibly some venture summits. It may be people that want to partner up. It may be people that want to invest in state, out of state. They just don't know who to talk to. I definitely think that we can try to create that for our Black and brown sisters so that they can survive. It's going to be interesting. There are a lot of legislative bills in the session right now that are going to, if they pass, they will change some things. I'm not sure if the one bill passed, they were trying to decriminalize marijuana again, make the second offense a felony, I believe. And then also there are multiple bills right now. One of them is trying to, they call our medical program recreational light. That's what they call it.
Is that what they call it? Is that what they call it? Recreational light. Yes. So how much does it cost to get a card?
You can get a doctor recommendation anywhere between $30 to $75. And then depending on if you're a veteran or on Medicaid, you can get a medical card with the state, $22.50 to like $110 every 2 years.
Okay.
But they're trying, but you have any condition, they don't even write anything on your form. Now there's a bill that's making progress where they want to make it a medical program. They said 63% of the voters don't like the program. So they spoke. They put an article out about it. We're going to change the program. So I don't know what that looks like. They're trying to cap the amount of grows. So we have like, I think almost 8,000 grows. They want it to be under 1,000. So from a compliance standpoint, I'm worried about my brothers and sisters, because even if they just make a mistake, that's a fine that has to be paid in 30 days. If it's not, you lose your license.
Absolutely. Well,
Yeah.
I just had an idea. Maybe we should do a Black Cannabis Investor Summit in Oklahoma.
I have that written down. Yes, ma'am.
Listen, honey, I just thought about that, because I will tell you this: investment, and there's a ton of people on this call. There's a ton of people that are in different states that are Black operators that are coming into the market or are already in the market. I think our freedom and access to capital is going to come from our community. I'm a brand that I am literally talking to investors every day, because the market right now is so tight. And imagine it's tight overall for the industry. And then when you look at Black and brown businesses who disproportionately have their failure record to access capital or the success record is very, very low. Maybe we have to take this under our own, just be like, okay, we'll just create the path to figure out how to tell people about the different options of investing and what that looks like. So we may have to talk offline and figure that out.
Yes,
because it is
amazing.
Yes. And it doesn't, and sometimes it's not as much as people are thinking. But Thunder, I wanted to give you an opportunity as well. Thinking about the Black and brown business owners, the operators currently right now, what's your thoughts right now on their viability as we now see that the adult use issue, the agenda, if they try to recirculate it, it won't come back around for like maybe another 2 years, correct?
They said 3 or 4. Oh, I'm sorry.
Correct.
Okay, go ahead.
So basically, I think we need to all combine together, basically tying a green thread between all of us. We all want to succeed. I am very disappointed that a lot of my sisters and brothers are closing down shop because they feel as if they're not going to make it. I do believe that if we work together and share space, share real estate space, share shelf space with each other, we can make some wonderful things happen. There's an unconscious bias here in the cannabis industry. My background is real estate. I am a cannabis appraiser. And so I look at what's going on in the world in general as far as unconscious bias that is also being applied to the cannabis space. And so without connection, without a sister and brotherhood, we will have some people that will fall away, but there are going to be some people that will succeed too. And so what I would like to do is reach out to those people that know that they're going to be successful and try to partner up with someone else and share the space, share the energy, share the finances, share the secrets of what success are. And I think that that's what your program allows, because what we find is that people just don't know. And we so much because we don't know. So if they're not tapping in, if they're not tuning in, if they're not going to conventions, if they're not sitting down at their table to figure out how can I make this work, then they are going to close their doors, because it's not just about selling cannabis. It's about selling a brand. It's about selling an energy. It's about selling
Mm.
the spirit of cannabis. I think
Right.
this plant will never let us down if we work together, because it's put here for us to be successful with. The only other thing that I want to share too is that when looking at the state of Oklahoma, other states are looking at our bill, our medical marijuana bill, and they are actually basically copying that bill word for word and just making some small changes. So people look at our state, and so it's not just, oh, that's a small state, that doesn't matter. It's a
Sure.
huge opportunity for other states to go back and say, okay, this is what worked in Oklahoma and this is what did not work in Oklahoma. So we really need to shine in Oklahoma, and we need to grow together, come together to make some things happen. And I think that the more voices that are heard out there, out of our whole, our small space, and we get out a little bit further, we'll realize that we're not just setting on Tulsa, or depending on Tulsa, or depending on Oklahoma City. We're
Yeah,
really, the whole world is watching. And I don't
absolutely.
think they understand that. The whole United States is watching. I mean, when they called the vote that night, the first place I saw it was on the New York Times. That's
Well, I saw it on CNN. So
yeah,
I called it on CNN, right? That's how I called it. I knew it was happening, but I didn't catch the results. And then they were showing the results, and the results were really skewed towards no. And then it improved a little bit, but it still was very obvious that the voters were saying no to legalization in Oklahoma. So I need everybody that's on here that's listening. I see you, Tatum. I see you've typed in some people. We have to stay connected. So we encourage folks, if you are not connected to M4MM, we have a freemium, meaning free membership, so that you can stay connected to these webinars we're doing. You have to feed your entrepreneurial spirit, your soul. We have folks like Jeff Booker, who is a extraordinary insurance provider in the cannabis space, Black owned. We need to look at suppliers, people that are supplying the industry. I need you guys to get connected with M4MM. We have a supplier network where we're trying to turn you on. And then the opportunity of learning from what's happening in Oklahoma, because people don't understand that you ladies as business owners may have more experience, expertise, and insight for these new markets coming up, like Alabama, Mississippi. You talk about Virginia, that's very close, and we're trying to create opportunity. North Carolina. So without, just let's plug in, guys. So first and foremost, I'm going to start with you, Shalon. Tell people, how can they find you?
I put my Instagram handles down at the bottom. I also don't mind sharing my phone number because of what I do for a living. It's public information. It's 918-924-1068. Reach out anytime. I would like to state that I would love for any ancillary business that's connected to M4MM, reach out if you offer a service that can be provided in Oklahoma. So insurance, CP, anything that you can provide services here in Oklahoma, we need you. And I can pass you on to the people that are looking for those services right now, because it's very difficult to find trusted people to do things right, especially when you are a new business owner and you don't have that knowledge. So those
Absolutely.
are my handles, and that's my phone number. Reach out anytime.
We'll have to. We have our Procure, which is our supplier diversity program. What we can do is we actually have folks already in there that we can maybe just get that list and maybe just turn it around and make it a little pretty, because it's in an Excel spreadsheet right now, but give it into some type of PDF, because not only do we want to share it within our Black operators, but literally Oklahoma is not an MSO driven state. It's these mid-level, mid-tier corporations who've had money, who've come into the market or what have you. And maybe that is the value proposition that we say, listen, we talk about opportunity, do business with us outside of just, buying cannabis or, or having your product on our shelf or vice versa. So let's figure out how we can get that Excel spreadsheet. If you are not in Procure directory, you can go to our website, just go to our programs, click on Procure, Make sure you're in there because it lists out your business, where you are, what your focus is, what your range is, if you're a veteran, if you're minority certified, how long you've been in business, your address, your website, everything that someone would want to know is all captured right there, and for us to push out from there. Same thing, Thunder. How can people find you?
Great. You can easily find me. I'm at Proud Mary Cannabis on IG. And then our email address is Thunderwalker at Proud Mary Holdings. Thunderwalker at Proud Mary Holdings with an S.
Okay.
.com. I really think that if I can just reach out to anyone that needs some assistance, it doesn't matter what state you're in. I am open to speak with you, to talk with you, and share my knowledge from state to state, because I do travel from state to state and look at, and I speak from state to state and look at the laws that are in the state. So if there's something that I can help anyone with, I'm very, very open to sharing the knowledge that I currently have, whether it's in the real estate industry of cannabis, the green zone, or whether it is just your day-to-day operations of running a business. Because if we don't share, that's when we fall apart.
That's where we fall apart. Let me ask you one last question as we wrap up from a brand perspective. And this is kind of centric to what I'm doing right now, but also there's a lot of folks that are looking at this as an opportunity. Do you see, are there any Black owned brands that are okay, let's talk about the celebrity driven or the athlete ones, but some that are not, just that are products on shelf that is branded, that is coming from someone of color who has created this line of products that's focused on patients? Are we seeing that in Oklahoma?
I would say no.
Okay.
I would see more of that, but that takes a lot of funding and a lot of work together. We have small brands that are here, but it's not the level that I would like to see.
Sure. Well, that's where we can come together, because there are some brands out here. Black Buddha is one that we come in and we become, create some space in Oklahoma and work with our Black operators to be, if we at the end of the day, the way I look at it is, if customers come in, they're buying, why not push them to say, hey, try this brand out. It's a Black owned brand, great products or whatever. And we recycle these dollars amongst one another, right? And we look at, we have some type of social impact, a part of our mission and our culture as brands of color and as companies of color. So I just want to charge everyone to make sure you go follow Thunder Walker. She's at Proud Mary Cannabis on IG. Please follow Shalon Youngblood. She's at Shalon Renee _ at Youngbuds Tulsa. These ladies, they know what they're talking about, and they're in the trenches right now. And we want to make sure we stay connected. We want to get suppliers connected to them. And we want to make sure that we recognize that, ladies, you guys are making history. I'm so proud to have you on my show. I'm so proud to call you sister. I'm so proud of your connection to the organization. And I just want to wish you the very, very best in everything that you do. So we thank you. Everybody, man, this is CannaTalk with Roz. And we're celebrating Women's History Month all month long for the month of March. I want to make sure you guys stay plugged in. We come on live 1:00 p.m. every Friday, or at least when I'm not traveling, I'm not stuck in the airplane. But just make sure that you stay connected to us. I love you so much. And I want you to have a beautiful Friday and a beautiful weekend. I'll see you next week on CannaTalk with Roz. Thank you, guys.